Hi, it's Tim. I'm on vacation in the U.S. for 3 weeks, and in my absence, we're representing my reviews with Mulele of the 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. This week, Spider-Man from 2002. We had just finished reviewing the MCU movies up to Spider-Man Far From Home, and in this review we touch on how this film felt a bit different from an MCU film. Or is this an MCU film? Of course, Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021 changed the answer on that, too. At any rate, this episode was originally published on Patreon on April 11th, 2020, and you'll hear it right after this. This podcast is part of the Deconstructing Comics Network, where we're grateful to our supporters on Patreon. Patrons get exclusive extra content. Pledge $2 a month or more and get Batman 66 podcast Bat Bits, where we've recently gone over an early draft of Rick Vollard's script for As the Bookworm Turns, and we'll be digging into a variety of documents from the files of William Dozier, producer of Batman and the Green Hornet, including his correspondence with Bruce Lee and more Season 1 Batman scripts. At $4 a month, you also get our monthly show Silver Age Batman, where I'm moving through the book Batman in the 50s issue by issue with a rotating second chair of Paul, Emmett, Patrick, or Kumar. Follow our Patreon for free and you can hear the first 2 episodes of both Bat Bits and Silver Age Batman. Check it out at patreon.com/deconcomics, and thanks for your support. Okay, welcome to our movie review podcast on our Patreon. This is Tim with Mulele in Tokyo. How are you doing?
I'm good. And you?
I'm fine. Yeah, we can't call it Tim Catches Up with the MCU anymore. It's Tim Catches Up with other superhero movies that aren't in the MCU.
Well, this is kind of MCU, wasn't it? It had the logo.
Well, yeah, that surprised me. It's actually the first, I saw on Wikipedia, it's the first movie to start with that flipping pages Marvel logo, which I had assumed didn't start until Iron Man 1, but I guess, I mean, yeah, well, that's a good question, if this is MCU or not, because, in the MCU Spider-Man movies, we didn't get an origin, and, there was this idea that Spider-Man had been around for a while, although not with such a cool costume. So, yeah, I mean, officially it's not, but unofficially maybe it fits together somehow.
Right.
And we now had J. Jonah Jameson in the MCU in Far From Home, so.
Well, that was their Sony deal thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we have to remember those MCU Spider-Man movies still say Sony on them.
Yeah. And also produced by, what's her name? Sorry, I'm blanking on her name, but Amy Pascal. She was the producer of these films, and this netted her a whole bunch of value. And somehow, when she got fired from Sony, she still walked away with Spider-Man and still involved in that. And the only time Kevin Feige does not have the sole producing credit on a Marvel film is with these Spider-Man films. Mm-hmm. And he has to share that with Amy Pascal as also a producer.
Yeah.
Anyway, the power structure is crazy.
Okay, so yes, I had sort of missed this one. Some years ago, maybe about 15 years ago, I saw like the second half of the movie dubbed in Japanese. I think I remember coming in at the point where Norman Osborn is talking to himself in the mirror.
Right.
Because the stuff after that, I kind of, oh yeah, I remember this, the blood dripping on the floor, and yeah, that all looked kind of familiar.
That's half the movie.
Yeah, but they were speaking Japanese, so and a little too fast for me, so I didn't get the full effect of it that time.
I see. I see.
Yeah, so of course I'm always watching for how the movies differ from the comics. So this doesn't differ from the comics that much. Certainly a lot less than the MCU ones did. MJ is Mary Jane. They sort of handled her, as I understand it, in the way that the Ultimate Spider-Man comic did, where she didn't, pop up for the first time when Pete was in college. She had been his next-door neighbor for many years. So that was a little different. Now, the 1962-3 comic origin story, Amazing Fantasy 15, being so few pages as the comics, comic stories were back then, that it was an anthology title with a lot of different stories in it. It was told very economically back then. So if you're making, a movie like that includes the scene where he gets bitten by the spider, there's a lot of room to, insert more things and kind of fill out the scene, and rather than just like boom, 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 here's the spider. And kind of updated for the times. It's not a radioactive spider, it's a genetically modified spider. That makes sense.
Yeah. I remember at the time the web shooters being organic was a bit of news in the industry, and they actually retroactively altered the comics to
for a few years. Few years, and then they retconned it back out. But yeah, I remember that. That was a terrible time for Spider-Man comics.
I didn't know that. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, just the writing was not good, and I don't know. I remember this. They went through this whole thing about Spider-Man sort of metamorphizing, having a mutation, and it was this whole big deal. And then within a couple of years, they threw it out. That's like, why did you go through all of that?
But that's how comics work, though. I mean, they're always like that.
Yeah, but how do you have a secondary mutation and then mutate back? Well, they had a lot to get rid of with the what was it, One More Day and Brand New Day, and that was one of the things they got rid of. Not in a very well explained way, as I recall, but and I remember this terrible story about this guy named Morlun who was after Spider-Man, and I thought that was a terrible story, but anyway, yeah, the 2000s in general were not a very good time for Spider-Man. 2010s were considerably better, but
prior to this film, I was familiar with Sam Raimi's work. Sam Raimi's the director of this film. He did the Evil Dead series 1, 2, and 3. In fact, Evil Dead 1 is his debut. He also did Darkman, which was kind of a superhero comic version of, well, not quite of Evil Dead, but I mean, it still had that vibe to it. This one was curious in that while watching it, it seemed to crib from a lot of superhero movies that had come before it. A lot, maybe not so much, but the one I felt the most was Tim Burton's Batman.
I have seen the two Tim Burton Batmans, and there were points where I kind of felt that. Of course, one thing they have in common is the score by Danny Elfman in both cases.
Yeah,
that could have something to do with it. But yeah, I did sort of get a little bit of that Burton vibe.
Well, the scene where they had the festival with the balloons, and that reminded me of the parade at the end of the first movie, just before the big showdown.
Yeah, and they both had big balloons.
Yeah, well, yeah, the big balloon was not quite the clincher, but it just the way it was set up and the dynamics of it seemed to be similar.
They were
Um,
both shot on huge indoor stages.
oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. I did see a lot of blue screen effects. But by the way, that was another thing. The effects here really don't hold up for me. A lot of them seem more than just a little bit dodgy.
Yeah, well, it was almost 20 years ago. I was expecting that the effects were not going to look as good as you know what we've seen more recently, but
Yeah, yeah, very true, very true. But still, I have to say, for this film, um, it was much more endearing than recent Spider-Man movies.
hmm.
I don't know. I kind of felt an earnesty in the performances by the actors,
Hmm.
and I believed it a lot more than a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing recently.
Yeah, that's true. I really liked Kirsten Dunst's performance. She felt really, yeah, earnest.
Mm.
I really, believed her, her cheerfulness. Of course, she's fronting a lot because of her abusive father and whatever.
Yeah,
But when she sees Peter, she seems so happy to see him.
yeah, yeah. Um, so, how did you feel about this story?
Well, I mean, of course, the origin, I've read a million times in either the original or in retellings in later comics. So,
Mhm.
I could, there were places where it was adjusted a bit and collapsed a bit because they wanted to have it happen in less time than it did in the comic.
Right.
So the appearance of the burglar, or in this case, he's the carjacker,
Mm.
uh, happened right after the wrestling match, and whereas in the comic, Spider-Man went on to become famous on TV, and weeks later he encountered this robber in the TV studio.
Hmm.
And then days after that, the guy killed Uncle Ben. Where in this case it happened, moments later when he goes outside, and I guess Uncle Ben is there to pick up Peter, and gets the car stolen and gets shot, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's really collapsed into much shorter time, but it's the same, kind of the same beats really,
Mm.
and so that story, I was expecting. Yeah, I thought the story was fine. It was good. I was trying to put my finger on something about the feel of the movie that, like, how is this different from an MCU movie? Because in a way, I felt like something that I'm accustomed to getting now wasn't there.
Mm.
And that wasn't necessarily a good or bad thing. Uh, but I just couldn't quite put my finger on how this felt different, other than the idea that it's not part of a larger narrative with a bunch of other heroes. It's just this movie. And there's no post-credit sequence
Mm.
or anything like that. It's just a movie, just one self-contained movie. So I don't know. I toyed with saying that this was more formulaic, but I don't know. I think the MCU movies can be fairly formulaic too.
Mm.
I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
On
On how this movie is different from an MCU movie in general?
um yeah, I think the overlay of subplots from other films
Mm-hmm.
or plots
Mm-hmm.
from other films isn't there, and you don't have to deal with a whole lot of stuff. Also, this one you can kind of pick it up and let it go. There's no, oh, I've got to watch the next one to see what happens, or I got to watch the one before this to see where I am in this story. Um, it is very simple in that way. There's also a kind of educating the audience that is done in the film, where this is the hero, this is his origin, this is his transformation into that hero, this is the lesson he had to learn to become a good guy. This is, and it hits every beat, and gives clear definitions of each, and allows the viewer to adjust to what it is. And it's a classic hero's arc. But if you consider something like one of the later MCU movies, and actually even the Spider-Man MCU movie, Far From Home, he's already Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The origin is already done. Now is him just trying to deal with an individual threat rather than being part of a team and being used to distract Captain America. So it's kind of a different thing.
Yeah.
And we have this relationship built up between Tony Stark and Peter Parker that is a surrogate for Uncle Ben. Yeah, it's a very fast. It's a very much faster, almost rushed version of this. But by that time, 15 years later, you've seen the origin story so many times. People don't want that anymore. It's like, okay, we know what Spider-Man is. We've had a new Spider-Man movie every 5 years for forever. Or a new Spider-Man trilogy every 5 years, actually.
Yeah, well, I was really surprised when Amazing Spider-Man came out and they were doing the origin again. I was kind of like, why? It hasn't been that long ago that they already did that.
Well, this is the thing. They kept having to restate themselves every time they did this. That each franchise was in and of its in its own reality and didn't touch the other franchise. For Sony, it's just a copyright issue. If they don't make a movie within 5 years, they lose the copyright. And so they had to make something. But retelling the origin, yeah, you're right. It's a very boring proposition for people who know the story or who have watched the other films.
The reason Raimi had Peter have organic web shooters was because he thought that it was more believable than a high school student making web shooters that even 3M couldn't make. Okay, I'm not sure which is less believable, but...
Well, look, if we're going to go with this whole written by a genetically modified or irradiated spider, anything goes, really. I mean, the idea you get bitten by a creature and become a superhero version of that creature, yeah, no.
And he still had Pete, design and make his own costume, which, the MCU movies have tended to avoid that kind of comic booky thing. They'll make some other kind of explanation for where the costume came from, rather than this guy is a superhero and also a costume designer. But they went ahead and did it here.
Yeah, MCU takes place in some weird nanotechnology, 3D hologram, whatever reality. A lot of shit that we don't have, and probably will not have for a while, is like just active there. So when we're looking at Far From Home, yeah, I think I said Far From Home a few minutes ago. Actually, I meant Homecoming.
That's
but anyway.
Kind of what I thought, Homecoming.
Yeah. So Far From Home. When he's in the back of the jet making his own Spider-Man costume with all that stuff, and he kind of intuitively knows what to do. There is, it's actually more believable than him in his apartment just making web shooters, to me anyway.
Yeah.
But still, the whole I guess timeline of Marvel films is in my mind divergent to what we've actually got. So it's all kind of like, okay, future whatever stuff. Oh, it's modern day. Well, then it's alternate reality because this shit just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
How did you feel about The Green Goblin.
Oh boy. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Well, I guess there was a lot of criticism at the time about the costume.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've seen the costume before, and of course I saw half of it in Japanese before. There's several things I don't like about the costume.
Uh-huh.
You know, now the classic costume maybe doesn't quite work for the modern day, but at least in the classic costume, he looks like he's wearing clothes.
Mhm.
This armor makes it look like he's naked.
I don't quite understand that. What?
Well, because the whole thing is one color, and I'm used to the classic comic book Green Goblin is green with these purple clothes,
Right.
but no purple clothes here, just green. So kind of subconsciously, I feel like he's naked.
Hmm.
Also, the face doesn't move when he talks, and then he kind of moves around while he's talking, and it looks like a puppet or something.
Hmm.
Or like, I don't know, HR Puffin stuff. When he talked, he moved his head around.
Hmm.
I
Well,
don't know. It just makes it look a little goofy. And then also,
yeah.
I think the voice in those scenes where he was in the armor, many of them anyway, must have been dubbed in. But the way that he spoke when he was in the costume just felt a little too cartoony to me,
Hmm.
rather than seeming like it was Norman Osborn. And it was kind of interesting that they did it as kind of a Jekyll and Hyde thing, like a split personality,
Yeah.
because that's different from how it's been in the comics.
Hmm.
Rather than sounding like the evil version of Norman Osborn, it just sounded like, I don't know, in a Japanese context, Vikingman from Anpanman. I was waiting for ha he hu he ho,
Or,
but
you mean he's like a goofy villain for goofy villain's sake?
yeah, or Snidely Whiplash or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't quite fit
Hmm.
for me, the voice that he had in those scenes.
Hmm.
I found that apparently early on, before Willem Dafoe was cast, they had considered, and somebody actually made this sort of animatronic Green Goblin head,
Hmm.
like a mask. And I don't quite understand how it worked. You can see it on YouTube.
Hmm.
There's like a demonstration reel of it. But the mouth actually moved, and it could emote. I don't. It almost looked like it was the actor's real face moving.
Hmm.
But I don't know why they decided not to use it. But I mean, that mask looked a lot more like the comic book Green Goblin.
Right.
And yeah, I don't really understand why they went with the armor instead.
Hmm. Okay. So in the original comic book, his face, that was his actual face.
Actually, no, it was supposed to be a rubber mask. But
Okay.
but it's comics, so you can convince yourself that the mouth is moving anyway.
Right.
Or maybe they sort of fudged it and had the mouth move even though it was a rubber mask. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, as far as we could tell, the mouth was moving.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've read any comics with the Green Goblin in it. Um, Curious. It was a little bit weird for me that we could see Willem Dafoe's mouth moving behind the mask. Why was there? Uh, I mean, you would want that kind of practicality for A, breathing, and B, just to hear him speak without this kind of muffled sound. But there's a mesh plate in front of in the mouth of the
Mm-hmm.
mask
Mm-hmm.
where you can then see his mouth behind it moving. Um, and it seemed that they had synced up the ADR or dubbing or whatever it was pretty well. But yeah, it was kind of a weird mask. It also had this visor that flicked up inside the mask, so you could actually see his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's a Hollywood thing because the actor needs to emote with the eyes at least.
Yeah.
Although V for Vendetta kind of proved that wrong. But still, yeah, it was kind of a weird mask, and I think they tried to justify it by in his apartment or his house he has all of these masks from other cultures, which I think is another thing they cribbed from Batman,
Mm.
the original Batman, sorry, the '88 Batman, where he's got like these different suits of armor from different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly he's got this armor for Batman.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, not knowing the Green Goblin, it all right, fine, whatever. For me, the performance by Willem Dafoe was actually much more interesting when he was out of the mask. I really enjoyed that. When he was Green Goblin, it's okay, let's get through this plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think in that scene on the roof with Spider-Man, it looked to me there like the lines weren't dubbed, and maybe that was why we could see his mouth, because he was actually talking there. But in the more like action scenes, it seemed to be dubbed.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Um, in the high school, when Pete's just kind of discovering his powers, and he accidentally shoots Webb, and he accidentally knocks Flash across the room, I was like, okay, well, when Spider-Man appears, isn't every kid in the high school going to say, that must be Peter Parker? But we never got to see how the high school kids reacted to his appearance. So,
Yeah, it was kind of absent. There almost seemed to be no point to him meeting Mary Jane in high school or starting the story there. Could have started in college. I don't know. Didn't Peter Parker drop out of college?
well, let's see. He did finally graduate in this is right around the time Paul and I started buying it in 1978. Although, well, he sort of graduated then. It's like, I think it turned out it was like typical Parker luck, and he found out he was one credit short or something. But there was a graduation story anyway. So yeah, and I think he did finally, fix that. So he has a college degree. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, just the idea that he was in high school, then we skip to this graduation, and then skip a little further ahead, and he's trying to find a job as a reporter or as a photographer, and Mary Jane's working as a waitress. It just seemed kind of like, well, why though? What was all that high school stuff about? They really needed to include Flash.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might have just been, an acknowledgement of the comics, because he was in high school for the first few years of the Spider-Man series.
Personally, I think that Spider-Man is an acknowledgement of the comics, but anyway.
Well, I think, they were probably pretty sensitive about what the fans were expecting at the time.
Yeah, there was a lot of fan service there, sure. But what about Gwen Stacy and her whole arc in this?
You mean Mary Jane? Gwen was not in this one.
Yeah, that's my point.
Well, I mean, Gwen didn't show up right away in the comics either. The how this was different was that, in the comics, his first girlfriend was Betty Brant, who is just, a minor presence in this. I don't think they ever even said her name. Where, Mary Jane showed up a few years after the series started. And yeah, Gwen, he met Gwen in college, but I don't know. I that wasn't bothered by her absence, other than the fact that in the comics, the Green Goblin took Gwen up on top of the bridge rather than Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the scene where Gwen dies in the comics. But, of course, here, happy ending, and so Mary Jane doesn't die.
Right.
But I guess one of the other potential directors of this movie wanted to do the Gwen Stacy dies story rather than the origin. But the producers didn't want to do that, so.
Okay. How do you feel about the ending of the film?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a little frustrating because I didn't quite get what is he passing on having a relationship with Mary Jane because he wants to commit himself to being Spider-Man?
No, it was very much a everything I love is destroyed. So I can't have love in my life. And he's very happy to kiss her and very happy that she likes him. But as soon as she says the word love, his expression changes. And that was the thing that made him decide, well, I could be your friend. See ya. But you weren't impressed with that.
I wasn't quite getting the vibe there. I didn't see a good reason for him to say that.
Yeah, I think it's the idea that, she was put in peril because the bad guy found out about his secret identity. And if it's that kind of thing, yeah, then he should probably not with Mary Jane. But
right, and he was thinking, everyone I love is put in danger, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And so he couldn't even admit that he loved her. He just had to let that shit go. But it's kind of like where he gets the girl and then doesn't get the girl at the end of the film, or he throws the situation away, which I thought was kind of interesting because, Mary Jane and Peter Parker is kind of the thing, it. And so you're expecting. And so if you're expecting, then he could just very easily go with the girl. And the audience wouldn't, wait a minute, that's strange. After all this, he's just going to get the girl? I don't think the audience would complain about that, but it just seemed kind of like a weird choice to me. But it works for me. For you?
Well, I mean, I guess I can kind of see where it came from, but yeah, it was. I don't know. I wasn't completely satisfied with it. Although, there are 2 more movies in this iteration, so it might be pointing to something in the future. Or maybe that's just my instinct about it from watching MCU movies.
One last small thing, I guess. This film came out in 2002. The early promotion for this film had to do.
Where you're going.
Yeah, had to do with the Twin Towers. I think this is one of the early ones that digitally removed the Twin Towers from the backgrounds.
I remember hearing at the time or reading somewhere that they had to digitally remove the Twin Towers from a few scenes, and I saw reading stuff last night that they reshot a few scenes.
Okay.
Also, the scene where people on the bridge are throwing garbage at the Green Goblin was added after 9/11, and I sensed that because it has this post 9/11 vibe to it. That kind of New York defiance at being attacked and everything.
Yeah, I actually didn't feel that because I felt that there are a couple of movies where New York kind of comes up to defend Spider-Man or help him in some way. And it's like, is this a thing from the comics or is this something only for the movies? And this was maybe the first one that did it.
Yeah, I think that's more of a movie thing.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't make the connection there, but yeah, I can see where that would be a thing.
So for Pete deciding to do that wrestling thing and challenge the wrestler for for the prize money. Of course, that happens in the original comic story too, but I think I liked the motivation for it here.
Yeah.
Because I think in the comics it was just, oh, I can cash in on this. And here it was, I need to buy a cool car so I can impress a girl. And, that feels much more like a teenage motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it works in the story quite tightly. I mean, the way that leads to another thing, which leads to Uncle Ben's death, was I thought, well done. And actually, I was having a really good time in the film at that point. I think after Uncle Ben dies, everything begins to kind of get a little boring with all the Spider-Man stuff. The relationship stuff I still kind of liked. The love triangle thing I thought was a bit weird. They didn't really go there the way I thought they would. But actually, one more thing. The Uncle Ben thing. There's a lot of referencing Peter's father in this. And at the end of the film, they come back to it and say, Peter, I've been a father to you. Be a son to me now. When the Green Goblin finally takes off his mask. And he says, no, I have a father. It's Uncle Ben. Was so weird. And so just like, what? I mean, it would have been more appropriate in my mind if he had said, I've been like an uncle to you. And they just left it there rather than I've been like a father to you. Because and this is the thing the question that I had later, it didn't seem weird to me at the time, but just kind of understanding, wait a minute, it's Aunt May, Uncle Ben. You mean those aren't his parents? So who are his parents? I have no idea. Had no idea until later movies. And then we talked about that a little bit, and it was just kind of weird to me in this film.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't strike me that way, but I've read a lot more Spider-Man comics, so
I've read almost none. Yeah. Oh, one or two last points about the wrestling scene. First, Bruce Campbell is in the scene as the MC. Was a huge Bruce Campbell fan at the time and really liked that he was in it for as much as he was.
Okay. Who's Bruce Campbell?
He was the main actor of the Evil Dead series. And kind of brilliant mix of slapstick comedy and horror. At least in the second one. The first one was like super serious, and this is really a drag to watch. And the third one is so campy, it gets a little boring. But the second one, if you're going to watch it, is the one. It's fucking nuts, but it's one of those films that every college dorm discovers every couple of years. But he was, I'm not sure how deeply their relationship goes, but Sam Raimi being the director and Bruce Campbell being the actor, and by the third movie at least, / producer, he was also producer on Darkman. I think their friendship is pretty thick. And being a fan of this kind of like B-level actor, possibly even C-level at that point, seeing him was a real treat. Also, in that scene, the music that they use for the
Bone Saw
was actually one of my favorite industrial bands from the 80s called Laibach. So why Sam Raimi knows this obscure Yugoslavian industrial band? It's like suddenly I'm hearing Panorama in the background. It's like, what the fuck? But anyway, it was a very nice moment for me. That was, for me, the high point of the film because of those things. After that, it's all okay, but yeah.
Although, what real wrestling organization would take somebody who wasn't in on it and put him in a cage match and like swing weapons at him? I don't know. It just seemed like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it even would have happened in the 60s or if it just only happened in Stan Lee's imagination, but certainly not by 2001.
Yeah, well, I can imagine there would have been like a 30-page document that he would have had to sign waiving
Mm,
any sort of rights to
yeah,
sue.
there you go.
It must have been cut out of the film. But anyway,
Let's see what else. Oh, I couldn't help noticing that the scene in which web swings the most when he's chasing the carjacker
mhm.
was at night.
Hmm.
And we've talked before, I think, or I've heard iFanboy talk about how doing stuff at night is often a way to cover up cheesy CG.
Yeah,
And I couldn't help wondering if that was part of the reason they decided. I mean, he didn't have to learn to web swing in that scene,
Mhm.
but that was where they put it. And that scene has to take place at night.
Right.
So let's put all the web swinging in there. And yeah, there wasn't a lot of web swinging elsewhere in the movie.
Mm.
There was a scene where we were his eyes that was, as he was swinging, just
Yeah.
make the camera swing. But yeah, not a lot of web swinging otherwise,
Mm.
like when the sun
Um,
was shining.
yeah. The film does have a couple of key moments of it, but I think they're still in a kind of the hero is the special sauce of the film, but the real dramatic tension is only when he has the mask off until the third act,
Hmm.
where he's got to save the girl. And it's kind of a formula um, that I saw in a lot of genre movies in the 80s and 90s, and I guess in this case the 2000s as well. But I think these days there's less of that. That the drama is still there, but the action scenes, the superhero isms are a lot more present
Mm-hmm.
than they used to be.
Hmm. That might have been part of what I was sensing about how this was different from the recent MCU movies.
Mm. It may be a little bit of a cheat, but if I consider Infinity War, they hit the ground running and never let up until the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if there's drama in the middle of it or not, but there's like dramatic tension throughout, and there are no origins, there are no explanations. It's just and okay, here's the thing, here's the MacGuffin. Who's going to get it first? Can we stop Thanos? And then they don't. And for me, that is a perfect superhero film.
Hmm.
But this formula is a little bit old, and I think that people are trying to stay away from this kind of thing now
Mm-hmm.
because it's been done too many times. Actually, interesting bit, and I don't want to spoil anything for you, but the origin story, they do it in Into the, what is it, Into the Spider-Verse,
Uh-huh.
like 6 or 7 times.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a joke at this point, but
Okay.
the fact that they do it 6 or 7 times is the joke, and it's actually really, really done well. And that's an origin story I can watch again and again because it's just done so well. But we'll get to it in a later podcast, I'm sure.
Yes. So I mentioned I liked Kirsten Dunst's performance, but it felt like the producers were more interested in showing her boobs as much as they could in a PG-13 movie. So I don't know. I wanted to put a Me Too hashtag on this movie almost, particularly in the rain scene. You can see her nipples through her shirt,
Right,
like the wet T-shirt contest.
right.
And the rest of the time she's wearing low cut tops and stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, we get it. She's a girl.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about that. I wasn't so focused on her breasts, but yeah, I was aware of the nipple scene in the rain. But for me, she's not the object of desire for me.
Mm.
let's say. She's cute, beautiful, or whatever else she needs to be for the film. Kirsten Dunst is fine as an actress. I I just don't look at her and think, oh my God, sex. Uh, so her nipples are showing or not showing. I really didn't care. Yeah,
Well, it's hard not to notice anyway.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, we talked in Far From Home about J.K. Simmons,
Mm.
and yeah, he's a good J. Jonah Jameson, but somehow something about his delivery made him sound to me like he was a little bit Southern.
Mm.
And he's not even Southern; he's from Michigan, J.K. Simmons.
Right. The
So,
fact that you know that.
well, IMDb.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It just sounded a little Southern to me. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, it certainly felt like the JJJ from the comics.
Sorry, you're talking about the actors from Michigan, not the J. Jonah Jameson's
No, I
himself.
assume J. Jonah Jameson's from New York.
Okay.
But
I thought you were saying that the character's origin was in Michigan and there was some sort of subplot in the
no, no,
Spider-Man
no, no,
comic
no,
somewhere that you read. It's like, what the
no,
fuck?
no. J.K. Simmons is from Michigan.
Okay.
Rosemary Harris is British, and I didn't guess that until we got to the Lord's Prayer scene
Yeah.
when Goblin attacks her,
Hmm.
because of the way she pronounces trespasses. She says trespasses. Like, oh wait, is she British? I looked it up. Yep, she's British.
I didn't catch that, but all right.
But yeah, I mean, no old lady from New York says trespasses.
Yeah, that seemed a little bit odd.
Um, but I mean, as far as being Aunt May,
I was fine.
yeah, I think she was fine. I don't know, maybe just it wasn't quite quite the same feel as what I expect from reading the early comics. Of course, neither is Marissa Tomei by a long shot, but
Well, I mean,
that's
Marissa
a whole
Tomei is the
different
only
character.
that's the only one where I was like, whoa, this is new. What the hell?
Hot Aunt May.
Yeah. But at the same time, if Aunt May is like 60 something and Peter's like 16, so how old is her sister?
Yeah, it's always been kind of a strange thing that they made Aunt May and Uncle Ben so old. I think they've kind of de-aged her a bit in the comics too, not to the Marissa Tomei level, but
Yeah.
she doesn't look as old as she did when Steve Ditko drew her.
Mm, mm. Okay.
Uh,
So, anything else on this Spider-Man movie?
well, in terms of being surprised by the music, maybe not in a pleasant way, what the heck is Macy Gray doing in this movie?
Yeah, I think that was the nod to Prince that Sam Raimi could get.
Okay. Prince?
Uh, yeah, Prince did the soundtrack for Batman '88.
I see. Okay. Or 89.
No, it was '88.
It came
No, it
out
was
in
'89.
89. Yes, it came
Yeah.
out in 89, the summer
Shit.
I got married.
I was an usher in the movie theater that showed it in San Francisco.
I see. So you saw it
Yeah,
many times then, huh?
many, many times. But
Can you
timelines for me are a little bit.
can you recite any dialogue to this day?
Um, there was a lot of stuff in my life at the time that I just tried to forget, and I think I lost a lot of Batman stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Vicky Vale. That's about it. That's all I remember.
Okay. Well, yeah. Overall, it was fun. It felt more like watching a movie version of the comics than the MCU version did for reasons we've gone into.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know. It was pretty good. And I understand that Spider-Man 2 is supposed to be the best of the three, so I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Do you have any knowledge of the plot or anything else from Spider-Man 2?
I just know Dr. Octopus is in it.
He is.
Yeah. Actually, I saw that there had been discussion of including him in this movie, but they decided it was getting too crowded, so they kicked him to part 2.
That's interesting, considering part 3.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that.
We will get to it. Yeah.
Well, I think the idea was that there would have to have been 3 origin stories if they put Doc Ock in here alongside Spider-Man and Green Goblin.
Right.
Yeah, I know that there are multiple villains in 3. Aren't there even multiple villains in 2?
To be honest, I don't remember about 2.
Okay.
But I do remember about 3 had like 3 or 4 villains.
Okay.
I think it was 3. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, in a couple of weeks we'll do Spider-Man 2. So, any last words?
Actually, a bit of promotion.
Okay.
I have recently started my own Patreon.
Oh.
And it's patreon.com/Mulele Redux, MULELEREDUX. I'm making comics there, and just about everything I do is going to be put on to Patreon rather than on Instagram or Twitter. And I'll be talking in depth about how I'm doing it and all the background information that goes into my comics. So
okay.
If you want to support me there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, thanks for being on today, Mulele, once again.
Sure.
And thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye-bye.
What you're hearing now is from Danny Elfman's score of the movie. The music backing the promotion of our Patreon is Change by Jazar. Next week, Spider-Man 2. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening.